Hey viewers, ever considered owning a short-term rental property but didn't know where to get started? Well, then this is the podcast for you because today we're going to talk about what you need to do to own a short-term rental and is it worth it? I'm Trisha Farron and you're watching Keeping the Real in Real Estate. So I'm a bit of an expert because I've actually done it for many years now, owning short-term rental properties. I'm going to be closing on my third property in a couple of weeks. And everything that I've purchased has been in East Tennessee, and there's reasons behind that I'll go into. But it has been quite an experience, and we've learned so much. And I feel like the decisions that we make today are far superior than what we did when we bought our first property. So today I'm going to go over things to consider in terms of acquiring a property, things like location and what the financing looks like, and after you own it, then what? How is it going to be managed? How is it going to be marketed? What types of responsibilities as the homeowner do you have? And what decisions do you need to make? And then take a look at some long-term goals for it as well. So I'm going to take you through some experiences that I've had. As I mentioned, we purchased our properties in East Tennessee. And the reason why we chose that location is because that particular state and the environment in which it is very attractive to us for when we go to retire. So we thought it would be a wonderful place to hang out and learn more about the area before we make that more permanent move. Now, in our case, this location happens to be an activity-driven place. It borders the Smoky Mountains, which brings in 10 million visitors a year, and there's a whole load of activities to do. This was important to us, and when you're considering a location, it's something you want to consider. So take, for instance, if you're a beach person and you want to get a place in maybe, let's say, South Carolina, you need to look at what does the season look like, and besides the beach, what else is drawing attention? It might just be a seasonal rental and stay pretty empty throughout the winter season if that's the case, and that's perfectly fine. There's no right or wrong answer. You just want to know what that answer is when you're looking at a location. You should also pick something that you like to do. So if you like to be on skis all winter long, maybe a short-term rental up in the northeastern states might make better sense for you. If you're a beach person, definitely something coastal. I kind of learned that I didn't want to be anywhere cold and I didn't want to be by the ocean because I'm more of a lake kind of a person. I like the mountain views. I also like all the activities that not only I can do, but that my guests can do as well in the Tennessee market. You should look it up sometime. Just plug in Dollywood and area attractions, and you're going to be amazed at all the things that there are to do. So before we decided to pick that location, we rented a cabin. We wanted to see what it was going to be like to be the actual tourist. What were the costs? What were the nuances of having a cabin? What's the proximity of the cabin to the attractions? How crowded is it? Is it kept up well? Certainly when you experience something yourself, you have a better understanding than if you try to do this by just reading a description of something. Now, there are plenty of investors out there that will buy these cabins sight unseen, and they're okay with that because somebody has put a template package together for them, and they might be living in California or Oregon or Kansas, and they buy something in a completely different state because it is purely investment. It's not something they're going to use. That wasn't our case. We knew that we wanted to be able to use the place for whatever period of time each year, so it needed to be someplace that we would actually rent if we were just coming on vacation ourselves. Now for us, I keep saying cabin, and it's not one of these sketchy cabins in the woods. They are considered luxury cabins. They have hot tubs and game rooms and media rooms, and certain cabins have outdoor fire pits. Some have indoor pools. These are luxury cabins. The very first cabin that we purchased was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It had already been on a rental program for 10 years, so it had history. So when you go to buy, that's something that you can ask for. What does the rental history look like? You could see what the expenses are. You could see what types of repairs have been made. They will have usually a property manager that will provide all that reporting. But there are some self-managed homeowners that keep their own records. I don't feel as comfortable with that. I'd like to see something more official, but Certainly, any information is going to help you decide whether the cost of acquisition is going to make sense for the long term. So I've talked a little bit about location. Moving into the cost of acquisition, you basically, this is either going to be a second home or a investment property. So as such, there are some decisions that are going to be made either by you or on your behalf that are going to apply to this type of property. So for example, the first property that we bought, we had to put 25% down. Now that seems hefty in a market where some people for a regular house mortgage may only put down 3.5%. But when you're looking to purchase either something that's considered a second home or a vacation rental or an investment property, the terms are going to be different. A lot of times the interest rate is also higher. So you're going to want to shop around as much as you can to find out what's going to be the best overall acquisition price for you. And you need to decide like how long are you going to be holding this property. If you're going to be paying points, that's going to be a better financial decision over the course of a 30-year mortgage. But if you're going to turn it around in 5 years, you really wouldn't have dipped much into the principal. So it's something to consider. But when you're starting your investment, you need to come up with the deposit and the closing costs. After that, what you're hoping is that the rental income that you get, minus all the repairs and commissions and everything that it is that you have to pay, is going to pay for the mortgage and any other updates that you need to make. In our case, we purchased our first cabin. It was a moneymaker. That cabin was doing great. If we didn't block out time for ourselves, we wouldn't be able to get in. It rented about 300 to 325 days out of the year. It had a wonderful rating online. It was perfectly located. It had absolutely gorgeous views. And it did well for us. Now, timing is everything. We managed to purchase that property for $287 at a time when the market was hot. Going to go see the properties, it's not like seeing a regular home when you're going to purchase it for your primary residence. This is a vacation resort area, so people are constantly renting the cabin. So seeing it, you have to go when there's either an empty day or what they call a turn, when one set of guests are leaving and then the cleaners are in there in the middle of the day and then the next set is coming in the afternoon. So when we went down to go see, I had an appointment to see 7 cabins and some only a drive-by. Seeing them in person versus seeing them online is a vastly different experience. The online pictures may not necessarily be your cabin that you're looking to purchase, or an apartment, or a condo, or wherever it is you're looking to get your short-term rental. When we went actually into the units, you can really see some of the wear and tear. So something to consider is who's the property manager, because they should be responsible for at least alerting the homeowner that there's been some damage or that maybe it's time to refresh the place because it's starting to look tired. And what we saw was a trend. The biggest cabin rental company in the area had the worst quality of each cabin. I was shocked because they were the most expensive, had the worst terms, and they were the largest. So they touted their ability to be found online and that they had a history with all these guests. Honestly, I walked through these places and I felt like they were dingy and dirty, and it was very telling. Like I said, it was difficult for us to see because we had to book places that had a turn or were empty. And we were only there for a few days. Almost on our last day, I saw one cabin pop up. It had just come on the market. Thankfully, it didn't have any renters in there, so we were able to go look at it. And instantly, I knew that was going to be the cabin that we purchased. It was clean. It was beautiful. The views were magnificent. For us in the East Tennessee area, people want to see mountain views. That is an attribute, like certainly a beach view, an ocean view would be, or a lake view, or a city view if it's something that's in the city area. You have to find out what is going to be the attractive components that's going to drive people to want to select your property to stay in their vacation. So for us, I knew it was an absolutely gorgeous view, beautiful dramatic windows as you walk in, and I was like, this is it. So as I mentioned, we purchased that property for $287, and at that time it was very difficult to get a property. They were moving very quickly. The market was hot. 4 years later, when the market was extremely hot because COVID happened and was just in 2021, we kind of looked at each other and said, this might be a really good time to make a switch. So we were able to sell the cabin. We did what's called a 1031 exchange, which takes all the proceeds of what the sale is, puts it in a third party person to kind of manage it. It's like almost an escrow. And then they move the money to the new purchase. And we do that so we don't have to pay capital gains tax. There are limitations, there are restrictions, and anybody interested in wanting to learn more about 1031 exchange, give me a call. I'd be happy to go over our experience with you. It's very advantageous, especially if you're going to hold the property for a long time. If you're looking to continue to make switches, it could get a little bit complicated because eventually you have to pay the taxes on this money. So you just want to time it right, and you need to continue to maintain the guidelines of what a 1031 exchange allows you to do. But done right, you save a lot of money on taxes. So for us, we were able, like I said, to purchase that property for $287. 4 years later, we sold it for $662. Yes, $662. And all that money went into the next property, which we bought for $975. At the time, the interest rates were super low, so we have a 2.75% interest rate on a 15-year loan, where we took out just shy of $300,000. So for us, the acquisition made absolute sense to sell one, roll it over into the other. The one that we bought was a much bigger cabin. It's a 4-bedroom, four bath versus the 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It sits up high on a mountain. You could see 60 miles to Kentucky from where this particular cabin is. If you're sitting on the deck at 9 o'clock at night, you could see the fireworks from Dollywood. It's spectacular. We love it. But it hits a different market. A 2-bedroom, 2-bath is going to get a small family or a couple of couples. A 4-bedroom, 4-bath could get a wide range. It could be 4 families. It could be one with teenagers and little kids and a whole host of things that they bring. So it's a different market. Marketing itself is a little different, but we went into that knowing that we wanted to now invest in a larger cabin to be able to take advantage of that particular market. So when you're purchasing your property, it's very important not only to look at what the area is and what amenities the unit has, but what kind of size are you looking for, because who are you attracting to this particular property? You're going to look at things also like, is it handicap accessible? I have several people that comment that they really like that it's 0 steps entry. There's a bedroom with a full bath on that main level. You have access to the deck. And while there's 2 other levels, anybody who has trouble with steps, they actually don't need to go upstairs unless they're going to the game room, or downstairs unless they want to go to the hot tub. But certainly if they choose to not do those activities, the kitchen, the main family room, everything is on the first level. So somebody who has any kind of mobility issues can take advantage of our cabin and still not feel like they're missing out on anything. That's not the case for every cabin. There's sometimes lots and lots and lots of steps. Or if you're looking at a condo, are there elevators, or like, what does it have? The other thing you want to consider is, are you going to allow pets? Pet-friendly vacation places are becoming much more popular now, and it's a huge consideration as to whether or not that's something you want to do. It's going to change insurance. It's going to change the maintenance on the unit. It's going to, in effect, give you a set of decisions that you need to make. Is it okay to have all these negatives? Because the positive is that now you've opened it up to a wider market. We actually don't have a pet-friendly cabin, and we did that on purpose, even though I have 3 dogs, because I have 3 dogs and I know what they can do. I also didn't want to spend more on insurance. And I don't trust people to take care of what our stuff is. We put high-end fixtures in the house, and I like a dog to not chew it or put their hair all over it or pee or whatever. So that was a decision we made. And we know that we're not going to get anybody who wants to travel with their pets, and I'm okay with that. So some other things that are really important is your property manager. When we had our first cabin, we kept the property manager that was the previous owners that they were using, because there seemed to be quite a good history. We had gone into the cabin. It looked beautiful, especially as compared to the other ones we saw. So we kept them. And for a long time, they did right by us until they didn't. I would come in and I couldn't believe the dirt. I would move the couch. There'd be candy or dust or gross things underneath it. Dishes weren't being washed right. The house just looked dingy. And even though I was complaining, they didn't seem to take my complaints seriously. Now I know that we were heading into or out of COVID, and so a lot of cleaning companies didn't, it was harder to get good help. I get all that, but in the end, you're still paying a fee. And the way a property manager works is that you pay them a percentage of your gross rental sales, and they take care of a list of things that you agree upon and contract with. In this particular case, they took care of all the marketing. You get a portal online so that you could see what the rentals look like. They had their own site where people could go ahead and reserve the room, or it was through Airbnb or VRBO. Um, they also handle any complaints. So if while a guest is there, the toilet starts leaking or the air conditioner doesn't work, they will take care of getting a contractor to come in, evaluate, getting it fixed. They alert you of the issue. They talk to you about pricing. You have always the right to say what you want fixed and not fixed, or how you want it done, but they take care of all the legwork. That's pretty standard with all the property managers. Some will charge different rates. Some will give you a discount if you have multiple cabins. Some will lock in how much time you can use your property for. Like before, I had mentioned the really big company that we saw many cabins with. You were only allowed 2 weeks out of the year. Now you think, oh, 2 weeks. I mean, how many times do you go on vacation in a year? I could tell you, when you have your own property, you look at the empty times and say, you know what? It's open for a week in February. Do you want to go? So to not be able to use that time on a whim, I think that would have been frustrating for us. So we were happy that the property manager that we used, unlimited amount of time. If I wanted to block it off for 6 months to use it, I could. So that was important to us. When we moved to the bigger cabin, we purchased a cabin that had been built not only but a few months prior, so it had no history. It had no equity in its brand or anything. We literally were starting from scratch. So we thought, well, if we're going to start from scratch, let's start with a different company that maybe we can grow together. So we found a little boutique company that was hungry to get some cabins under their belt. They had a good business model. They had good customer service and communication. They were willing to work with me as the owner and investor and marketer, to collaborate our efforts and make sure that we were both working for the better good of both of us. And things were working great. And again, it's not that they are not doing well, but they grew too fast and were not able to support all the demand that was coming from all the cabins they now had in their portfolio. So they sold to another company that is a much larger company. This transition was a little bumpy in the beginning. We never got a say. We weren't even told in advance. All of a sudden, things were changing and tools that we had weren't working, and I panicked. We were heading into the busy season and my cabin wasn't being booked. There was no communication. I was not happy with that. But now that that transitionary period is over, it has been much better. My cabin is being rented. It's clean. The things, it seems so that the expenses of maintenance have been going down as well. So I'm very pleased with what has come out of this. I just did not like the transition. And I've heard this happen to some other investors where a small company will all of a sudden sell to a big company and you have no say. And now you're stuck with a company that you didn't get to vet, interview, or, evaluate until now you have to find somebody else. So before you buy, I would find out what property managers are in the area. How are other investors liking their service? How long have they been with those companies? What are their options? And what are the pitfalls? There are some areas that struggle so much with a particular aspect, like either response time or the cleaning. I mean, the cleaning is paramount. A person who comes in to rent your place, if they see one thing out of order, the first thing they're running to do is put a bad review someplace. So it's really important that you spend whatever you have to spend to make sure that your property is cleaned well and maintained well. Broken fixtures or light bulbs that don't work or tears in the furniture, nobody wants to see that. So you need to make sure that you have in place somebody who's looking for quality control. With my company, not only do the cleaners go in, but after like an hour or two after they're done, there is a quality control person that goes in and evaluates. They count the dishes. They make sure the towels weren't stolen. They look to see if anything was broken. They review a report that the cleaners provide to them, that anything that the cleaners found. And this it's information that then can come back to us because they can say, the blinds in the bedroom are broken and that needs to be fixed, or we need to replace this, it's starting to look dingy. Um, I really appreciate that kind of communication because it keeps me on my toes. I like the cabin to be pristine, and I now know what's the problem with it and can make a decision as to whether or not I want to get it. The other thing that we've done that has been highly, highly successful is that we developed a relationship with a general contractor there. And this was completely separate from the property manager. The property manager, if the toilet breaks, they're going to call their plumbers and or their maintenance guy or whatever. You don't really get a chance to know who's working on your house or the quality of work that they can do. But when you get your own contractor and you vet him and you or her and you interview and you can see their work, you now have confidence. So I have a relationship, my guy Troy, I love him. I can text him at 11 o'clock at night and say, oh my gosh, there's a flood in the house, and he would be over there in a heartbeat. We developed that relationship from the beginning. I told him that this is the way I work. I need somebody that I can rely on. And like, this is not a joke. You can't treat me like a queen for the first year and then, get busy and then I don't become important anymore. I want to be the one that you drop everybody else to take care of my stuff. And I will pay you to do that, and I will make sure that I refer you and treat you well. And that symbiotic relationship has benefited me so much. There have been big maintenance problems that we've had to address in this cabin, and Troy is there watching over the guys that have been hired that are a third party. They're not even his guys. If there's specialized services that need to be done, he will actually go to the cabin and basically babysit and make sure that they're doing a good job and report back to me. So yeah, you pay him a little on the side to do that, but it's so, so worth it. And then when something big happens, you know that you can trust that you're not getting ripped off, that the work is not being done half-assed. I can sleep at night because I know I have Troy, and he's wonderful, and I'm very pleased that I was able to find that, and I would always, always keep somebody like him basically in my pocket. So that's important, and sometimes you have to actually go to the area and talk to realtors, talk to other investors, talk to the HOA if there happens to be one in your resort. Don't go in half-assed. It sounds so easy to just do it, but there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. But as an investor, I could tell you we are now buying our third unit. It is a one-bedroom with a loft. It's considered a large, tiny home. It's only 910 square feet. It's not high up on a mountain, but it has mountain views. It's close to the action. And we wanted something with a different market that we're going to appeal to. This is for the couple who's just taking a weekend away, or a couple with a small child. Like, this is not the multifamily reunion kind of place. It's quiet. It has a hot tub in the yard. It has a little video game upstairs. It's a 6-person fire pit outside. It's perfect for a small situation. And I'm really excited to be able to have this as an option as well. But that's something that we were able to go into because now we're in the know. We know exactly what we're looking for in the quality of the cabin, the location, the prices. I just know these things. Experience really does go a long way. And something simple, like there were a few things that I wanted done, and I called Troy and I said, listen, we're closing on August 9th. This is the list of things I want done. Well, August 10th, he's scheduled to be there. And then we'll be able to have the property managers take pictures and get that baby marketed and started getting it rented. There's so much I can go into, but the last point I just want to make is, in addition to all the experience that I have buying these properties and being a short-term rental investor, I now have my license, my real estate license in Tennessee, and I'm offering anybody who's interested to purchase in that area to come, let's meet, talk about all your goals and things that you want to do with this, and then when you're ready, I invite you to come down to the area. You could stay in my cabins, learn what it's like to be in the area. I will take you around and teach you everything there is to know about the area and what questions you need to ask. And if you are really interested and serious on moving forward, I can actually help you buy that property. So I hope that this has been helpful and at least giving some clarity on what it's like to buy a short-term rental property. And if you have any questions, always you can give me a buzz. Thanks for watching. Until next time.